Welcome to Goldfish on Games, where I hope you're ready for an onslaught of hot games, as e-games are serving up their second best, the Galaxy of Games Silver Edition, which was released around 2002, and it seems to be also known as Galaxy of Win Games, and it promises 50 exciting titles that will bring hours of fun with amazing graphics and sound. Now, there's no surprises that inside the box all we get is a CD that installs and boots up to a very simple menu with just 21 games on it. I think e-games might be being cheeky with their counting again. As it's not a huge number of games here, I figure we're going to check them all out, as it has to be easier than that dreaded Big 100. And while we're doing this, we can also try and work out how they're counting their games. And we'll have an actual count and a possible count on screen. Now let's just start at the top and work our way down, which means the first game is Win a Million.
Welcome to Win a Million.
Which already feels wrong, as you can't really win anything in this game, let alone a million, although they do never mention cash. Now this is a quiz game where you have to answer questions that will send you up the pyramid.
Shuffling categories.
And this feels like a game that could have been taken from one of those pub quiz machines.
The question is...
And it feels just as engaging as those if you're sober. The questions are a bit limited, but then this is one of the special editions, which is the name that e-games gives their demos and shareware. But they don't want to call them that, as they don't want you thinking that you've just paid to get a limited version of the game. Now, I didn't really enjoy this one. Yes, there's bailouts and hints, but it's slow, it's clunky, and it gives that designed to eat your change vibe. And clearly it's just a single game, so let's start off the tallies.
Your hint is...
Word Scramble, a very simple looking game that is basically a take on Boggle, in which you get given a bunch of letters and you have to try and make up as many words as you can. As some of you know, I'm dyslexic, and so spelling is my arch nemesis. You have no idea how badly spelt my scripts are, so this is really not a game for me. But I will say it's well done enough. You can either click on the letters or just type them in, and it will check the words against its own internal list, and then score you depending on how many letters you manage to type. It's mostly single player, and it can only be played in a window, so it does have that nice desktop game feeling to it, but this is one that I would skip. But it is another one for the tallies. Renee's Resort. Now this is the first of many puzzle games, and it's a block pushing Sokoban style game, and the goal is to guide Renee from the hotel to the beach via the ramp. But before that, we're going to need to collect the inner tube. Now this will require moving items around, like the balls that we can use to fill up the small streams of water. Now these will move in a straight line until they hit something, but then we've got stuff like the trampolines that we can use to block those beach balls. But it can also be used to jump over walls. It's a simple enough game, but the controls are horrid. You can't just hold down a direction, you have to tap each time you want to move. And the game ramps up quite quickly with the items that you'll have to deal with. Now, being a standard edition, there aren't a huge number of levels.
Are there any sharks out there?
But if you do get stuck, there is a button that will just solve it for you. So if you can remember the steps, it's not too hard to finish. It's a fine enough game, but it isn't one that I'd really return to.
Uh-oh, I think I lost my room key.
Drone. It's time for another genre change, as now we get a vertical shoot 'em up, which is very 90s PC in its aesthetics. And then you add on top of all that all the explosions and the particle effects, which makes it all very difficult to see what's going on. But one thing that is a bit of a surprise, where's the music? I expect a thumping soundtrack to go along with a game like this, and all we get is, well, it sounds like bees. But I will say, this is quite a generous game, as it's only the enemy bullets that will harm you. Flying into them doesn't. Now there's no real weapon upgrades, and you can just hold down the fire button, which more or less gives you a straight line up the screen. That will be good enough to take out most of the enemies with just a few hits, but every so often you'll come across these larger ones that will keep coming back and can soak up a lot of bullets. And for these, you'll need to use the Stinger missiles, which have their own targeting system. But the real unique bit comes at the end of the levels, where these nuke-equipped cruise missiles will show up. And shooting it will technically finish the level, but it classes that as the bad way. The good way is to launch probes that eventually will disarm it instead. Now this is a fun and hectic little game that even has a shield, although I've never been fast enough to really trigger it when I really need to. So this is definitely one that I would return to. But again, this is just another single title for our running totals.
Begin disarming. Launch a blue probe towards the approaching drone.
Dominoes Deluxe. No prizes for guessing what this game is based on. Now you do get the choice of either playing against the computer or other people via the network. Now it's a game that required me to actually look up how to play it, as I've never learned before. And it requires you to take tiles out of your hand and then match them up against the endpoints of the growing line in the middle of the screen. The length of which can get a little unwieldy and will require you moving the whole thing around or scrolling the window, and if you can't place a tile then you'll have to pick up instead, and the winner is the one that places all of their tiles first. Now for a Dominoes game, I guess it looks decent, and it has a nice range of MIDI files for the music. But it can't get away from being such a basic title. But I have played much worse games. Domination. This is a fun one that took a little bit of reading to work out how to play it, but it's another two-player game, with local computer or network play. Now you will take it in turns to move your pieces around the board. Now if you move it just a single square, then you'll leave a duplicate behind. If you move 2 squares, you don't. But also when you land, any nearby pieces of the other player will switch to being your pieces. And I think you can see where we're going with this. The goal is to end up with more squares on the board than the other person. So in a way, it's a bit like a variant on Reversi or Othello. The default graphics are a little ugly, but there are a few options to change that. Not that I think they're much better. But wow, does that music go harder than it had any right to. Now this is a perfect little game for me. I could see myself playing this a lot and really enjoying it. But even with that, I can still only class this as a single game. Mahjongg, The Curse of Ra Special Edition is up next. And you get the pun in the name, do you get it? This is a take on Mahjongg Solitaire, which is a style of game where you have to match tiles, but the twist here is that you get a number of crafted levels that you need to complete, all within a brutal time limit. It did not need to be this hard. It didn't need to be there at all, if I'm being honest, as this would have been an enjoyable, relaxing little puzzle game without it. Now, if the rules on how you pick tiles are confusing you, then you are not alone. It took studying the manual to really work it out. Now, you can't just pick two tiles that are the same. You need to be able to draw a line between them with at most 2 right angles. The rules page does have a nice picture to really hammer this home. Now, this makes the game both easier and harder, as it does allow you to pick tiles in the middle of the pack. Now, I did really enjoy this one, but I would have enjoyed it far more without that time limit, as they had all sorts of fun little ideas, like tiles that move. And oh, because this is the shareware version, you'll still have to buy the premium edition if you want to get more levels. And even if it does have 2 modes, the other one being more of a standard Mahjongg Solitaire style, I'm still going to have to class this as a single game. Juxto. This is our second Sokoban style block pushing game, just with even less graphics than before. The twist with this one is that you need to push the right coloured blocks into the highlighted bits under the playfield, where you can't get to once they go down there. Now at first it's just these yellow ones, but it changes it up as it goes. Now this feels basic, looks basic, and sounds it as well. Its only upside is the ability to select any level, and also have it solve itself. But this one is not really for me, and even with all this, it does only get classed as a single game, although I would be tempted to say it's half a game. Solitaire 25 Volume 2. And, well, I think we can guess where most of the extra 29 games are coming from. And looking at the names of all the various versions that we have here, I'm not really sure I recognise any of them. Luckily, each game does come with its own set of instructions in telling you how to play. And if you enjoy your Solitaire style games, then this would have been great. Graphically, it's nothing to write home about, and very little to write a script about either, but it is nice how it tracks the games that you've played with how many times you've won. But for the title that has the highest number of games of any single product, this might also be the shortest review, as I don't think I can really talk about 25 variants on Solitaire. But up goes the tallies. Mahjongg, Game of 4 Wins. Yes, we are back with Mahjongg, but it's not the Solitaire version. This is the serious one. The one that likes to encourage gambling, as it is in some ways a little bit like poker. It's a game that's played with 4 players, and the basics are that you have your own hand, and you have to take it in turns to throw away a tile. Now that tile can then be collected by another player if it forms a scoring hand. Now the scoring system is way too complicated for me to get into this video. I've barely gotten my head around it, and that's after playing this for far longer than I'd like to admit to, and I'm still feeling that I'm missing some of the nuance. But basically, you want to try and build up 3 or 4 of a kind, and they have to be of the same suit. Now there's other ways of doing things like trying to make runs, but those don't score. What they can do is get you towards Mahjongg, in which case you've got a completed hand, which will give you extra points. Now this is actually a very interesting game, and I quite like this version of it as well. I do like how it reads the tiles out as you go,
8-1 Joe. Green dragon.
Tell you if you can actually pick up the tiles to form any of the pungs, cons and chos. And the help was extremely detailed. I just wish the computer wasn't so good at it.
5-1 3 bamboo Joe. 2 circle. 8-1 9-1 Mahjongg.
Lexicon, another word forming game. Just this time they've put a huge amount of effort into its presentation. And sometimes I think it's to its detriment, as the UI feels a little slow to react at times. Now there are 3 different modes. The first is a bit like word Skamble, but when you select letters they vanish. And there are a number of layouts for you to play with. Now another one has you playing it more Scrabble style. In the shape it will keep changing as you're going. And the final one, well, I didn't really work it out. Now word games aren't really something I enjoy, so I wasn't going to put too much effort into it. Two-player chess. Now the first thing I noticed was the touch here to start. This feels a little like something we touched on earlier, and in previous looks at Galaxy of Game CDs, and that they seem to have these games that were either planned for, or even came out on those pub and bar quiz machines. Although they might also have come out on the touchscreen tablets of the time, but those really weren't all that common in the early 2000s. Although I'm not sure that when I used to visit bars all that regularly, I would have wanted to have played chess against a mate. And as this implies, this is a 2-player only game, with all the standard chess rules. There really isn't anything all that special here. Acey Ducey Backgammon, a backgammon game, and another one that I went in having no idea how to play. And I have no idea if Acey Ducey is a person or a type of backgammon, or if it's just a term from the game. Now it seems the goal is to move your pieces around the board, and the winner is the one that manages to do just that, and get it all the way around to the other side. Now this is done via rolling dice, and you can either move 1 or 2 pieces using your numbers, and having only just learnt the rules, it seems fine enough, but it's not really doing anything for me. And I think just having this single variant, we should also just class this as a single game. Spooky Castle. Wow, now this is a big change from the previous title, and it's a bit of a weird one as well, as we have to move around this world trying to find stages to play, where we'll have to fight various monsters to try and collect brains, as all the brains have been stolen.
I'm cool, Cat Bear.
Now the controls are both laggy and slippery, but it doesn't really matter as the hitboxes are all over the place. Now you'll start each stage with nothing, and you'll have to try and collect the hammers to increase your firepower, with each one adding another hammer when you fire. You can also collect the Trousers of Power, that will speed up how fast you can throw those hammers. And for the most part, anything you collect in one level will not continue with you to the next. Now as you do progress, the levels will get larger and far more complex, with all sorts of fun lighting effects going on as well. You'll also find keys that you might need to use in the right order, as sometimes they are one use and others they can be used multiple times. Fun! And if you get it wrong, then you'll also have to restart the level. Now there are other items for you also to collect, like bombs and guns, which can be very useful when the enemies try to swarm you down very small corridors. It's got some fun, silly sound effects and speech samples going on as well, and I actually enjoyed this more than I first expected. But it's definitely not the best game ever. But it might be one of the more creative ones on this CD. Geo Jump. It's another pub quiz machine game, and this time it's a trip across the US. And what do you have to do? You have to solve Peg Solitaire puzzles. I hate Peg Solitaire, so this really is not the game for me. Even if it was better designed, I still don't think I'd enjoy this one. Zulu Assault, a shoot-'em-up style game where you're driving a tank, and you have to assault a base with a team of AI-controlled helpers. But even with this lot, this is a brutal game. It doesn't take much for you to use your health, either from the enemy tanks, the emplacements, or the A-10s. Those things will really mess up your day. Now there are power-ups if you manage to survive long enough, which might include invincibility or a fireball. But our friendly tanks, they do seem to have much better weapons than us, which does feel wrong. And while our cannons do fire fast, they aren't the best at taking down the armour of the enemies. Now I did sort of enjoy this one, but I feel I would have enjoyed it more if I could have lasted longer. Or if at least I could have gotten to grips with the controls a bit better. It seems you can actually drive your tank and change the aim of your cannon. This feels like it's just screaming out for twin stick controls really. But it's a good few years too early for that. Total Recall. Unsurprisingly, this isn't based on a film. But what might be shocking is that this might be worse than the Amiga game of the same name, as it's a Simon Says style game, as it will highlight some colours and then you have to repeat them. But every so often it might require you to hold down the mouse button to select multiple items. I really do not enjoy memory games. So much that I would actually have been tempted to class this as a negative game. Galaxy Man. And yes, it's another word-based game. And this one, well, it's just basically Hangman. But if you make a mistake, then a space monster will be slowly revealed. Now you can change up which alien is shown, but I actually found it really confusing having the word down the side of the screen. That really messed with my head. And I think it actually made the game far harder for me than it needed to be. Now overall it's fine for what it is, but it's nothing special. Blast Thru. Now we are talking, as we get an Arkanoid style game, and it is extremely well done. Everything has this pre-rendered shiny look to it that was all the rage at the time, and we have lots of power-ups and downgrades that you can collect or avoid. The issue I have with them though is that they fly off at odd angles. So quite often you're going to have to go chasing them down, leaving you open to losing your ball. Now I guess it does add this risk-reward system, but I don't think it was really needed to be there. But some of those upgrades are quite a lot of fun to use. There's also a large number of different tile types that you're going to experience, like the ones that explode. Now being a special edition, we are limited in the levels. But amazingly, they have included the level editor so you can make your own. Now this is a great take on a classic game. But even with all that, I still think it classes as a single game for our totals. Game chest. And here we find the other 5 games. This includes Backgammon, Yahtzee, Rummy, Queen's Audience and Fortune's Favour. Now I've heard of those first 3, but the rest, no idea. It does feel like it's really just a few card games with a few others tacked on. And it's all a bit basic looking. But I guess it plays as well as you might expect, really. Now it does feel a bit weird to have 2 versions of Backgammon on the same CD, but they did put a bunch of effort into the help docs at least, that will teach you how to play the games, which actually has been quite a common theme with a lot of these titles, which I think is an absolutely great thing to have, but it doesn't really help this game become any better. Space Solitaire, the final game, and it's another one of those pub quiz games, but it's Solitaire in space, or as it likes to call itself, Solitaire 2000. But unlike the comic 2000 AD, this isn't cool. I'm gonna say they just made a very simple Solitaire game and then did some basic art swaps to theme it depending on what people wanted, as it's the most basic version of Solitaire you will find. And at the time, I can't imagine you wanting to play this one over what already came installed with Windows 98. But it does help pad out the numbers, I guess. And there we go, every single title on this CD. So did we hit 50 games? Well, not quite, I put it at 49. But there were a few games which I really enjoyed. I put way more time into the 4 Winds version of Solitaire than you might expect. And Domination was such a cool little title, and I really did enjoy those shoot 'em ups as well. Now this might not be the best collection from e-games that we've seen, but I still think there's enough here that it would have been worth picking up. And let me know in the comments what you think. And if you enjoyed this, then why don't you consider checking out my other Galaxy of Games videos? I've done a number of them. Or you could even do the whole liking and subscribing thing, it's up to you. And until next time, I've been the Goldfish, That was the first Galaxy CD that we managed to cover all the games on, and this was Goldfish on Games.